Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Jay Moore. I'm encourage and equip everyday, average, ordinary Christians who love Jesus to live powerful missional lives that brightly shine the light of Christ in their part of this dark world. And today I want to talk with you about a very important subject. I've entitled it One Common Barrier That Keeps Christians from Sharing Jesus with Others. It's not the only barrier, but it is a common barrier. It is one that I hear being brought up over and over again when I talk to people. It says, Christians, and ask them, do you share Jesus? And they say, well, no, I haven't. I know I should, but I haven't. And when we finally get around to, well, why is that? One of the most common reasons is because of worry. That's right. Worry is one of the most common reasons given why Christians today do not share Jesus with another person. It might be because they're afraid or worried that they might say something wrong. They don't want to, be telling them something that's not accurate, and so they're worried about it. They feel like they may not have the right answer to a question, or somebody might ask them a question that they have no idea what it is, and so they worry about not being able to answer people's questions. They might worry about, well, if I go on mission with Christ and I begin to share Jesus with other people, he might actually call me to some other place. And where would he call me? Would he call me to the deepest jungles of Africa? Would he call me to go down to the Amazon forest? And so I'm worried about where God might send me. And then, people get worried that they might get in trouble at work if they're at work and they're sharing Jesus with a coworker. Well, their work might not like it, and that's becoming more common today. Even if you're on your lunch break and you're in a common work room and you're talking to people about Jesus, sometimes we've heard of people getting in trouble with their employer because they're not supposed to talk about God or those things. Becomes, they say, could be offensive to one of the coworkers. And so worry becomes that huge obstacle. And really, if we're going to get to the place where we shine the light of Christ brightly in our part of this dark world, we got to get past this issue of worry. As a matter of fact, I like to tell people we need to get to so past it that worry is no longer part of the consideration, because worry is no longer part of our life. We've grown past it. You say, what do you mean by that? I mean, worry is just something that's common. It's a part of everyday life. And so when I tell people, it says, Christians should live a worry-free life. They're saying, oh no, that's not true. But Jesus actually said in the Sermon on the Mount, when he's talking about, don't worry about what you will eat or what you will wear. Don't you know that God takes care of it, dresses the lilies of the field, and he feeds the birds of the air, and you're his child. What more would he do for his own child? That phrase starts out as don't worry. He doesn't say don't worry so much or just worry a little bit. He actually says stop it. Don't worry. And even the Apostle Paul in Philippians, he says, do not worry about anything, but instead pray about everything. He says, stop the worrying and exchange your worry over whatever's going on in your life with praying about it. So we see both Jesus and the Apostle Paul clearly stating, he says, that we should not worry. It should not be part of our everyday Christian life, and thereby affecting us on whether or not we share Jesus with somebody, or we're going to go out and live a life on mission, join Christ on his mission or not. Worry should not play a part in whether or not we're willing to go to one place or another place, that God might send us. Worry should have no part in our lives, especially in our lives that are on mission with Christ. Um, and so I want you to begin to think about this. I want you to begin to ask yourselves, what are those things that you worry about when it comes to sharing Jesus, the gospel, with another person? What is it about those things that create anxiety in your life about the thought of joining Christ on his mission? You know, Is he going to call me to go to another country? Is he going to call me to go here? Begin to list all of those specific things that you stress about when you start hearing your pastor or somebody say, um, God wants you to go out and share Jesus, or God wants you to go out and make disciples. Uh, what is it that actually causes you anxiety and worry about it? If you begin to identify those things, then you can begin to pray about those things. Kind of like what Paul said, don't worry about them, but pray about them and ask God to remove that worry from your life and instead replace it with the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, to guard your heart and your minds, and to give you that contentment, that you're okay with what Christ is asking you to do in regards to living a powerful missional life. Now, this has become such a major issue that I've identified, that I'm actually finishing up writing a book about this particular thing. I've been kicking around a bunch of different titles. I'm probably going to get to where what I call it is, living on mission in spite of my worry. Or joining Christ on his mission in spite of my worry, and then biblical advice for how to eliminate anxiety from your heart, to relieve anxiety from your heart. And so the idea here is there are biblical principles that we have, that once we not only understand, but once we also begin to implement, we begin to um, believe, not just in our minds, but believe in our heart, then we can begin to trust God. But then there's also practices. There are things like prayer, Paul talked about that, but other things that we can begin to do in order to help relieve that worry when it begins to just sprout up like a little weed in our life. The weed of worry sprouting up in our life. What can we do to eradicate it, remove it quickly? What are those practices that we can do to get us back in check so that it doesn't become worry infested in our life? So you're going to get more word about that when as the book is actually put out there. And so I just wanted to let you know that this is something we need to talk about. And more than just talk about it, this is something we need to actively take care of. Because understand this, when Jesus gave the Great Commission in Matthew 28, 18 through 20, he gave it to 100% of all of his followers. If you're a follower of Christ, that includes you. And that commission, that command that he gives is to go make disciples. It's not an option, it's a command. And as a result, we should not allow anything to become a hindrance or a roadblock or a barrier that keeps us from fulfilling that mission or engaging that mission. Not even worry. So, all right, that's kind of just a little thought I wanted you to think about. Again, this is Jay Moore, The Ordinary Christian, and I want to thank you for subscribing to my YouTube channel. If you haven't already, do so. I put out these little videos to think about. Some of them are training, some of them are devotional, inspirational, hopefully empowering and encouraging, to help you shine the light of Christ brighter in your part of this dark world. All right, take care. God bless you. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.